Welcome to the Beginner Guides to Coffee, and today let's talk everything espresso. Like I said before, the video is specifically for beginner baristas who get it into coffee. So by the end of this video, you should be able to make a great cup of coffee for yourself. You can't make coffee without understanding how to operate the machines. Now, when it comes to making coffee, we should keep in mind that we have dual boiler machines, heat exchange machines, we have single boiler machines, we have a lot of machines out there. Let's start with the dual boiler machine. Now, the dual boiler machine here means it do have two boilers. We have a brew boiler and a steam boiler. Here, consistency is that much perfect because we can brew and we can extract at the same time, because you do have like more PID controller that controls the temperature stability. For the heat exchange machine, it do have one boiler. It can also extract, it can steam at the same time, but the problem here is consistency is not that much. So if you have to extract, you have to steam at the same time. Based on the fact that it do have just a single PID controller, the temperature will be fluctuating. So at some point you have good extraction and at some point you have bad extraction. But again, it is okay if you do use this kind of machine in your home, that you don't make too much coffee. We do have single boiler machines. Single boiler machines means you do have one boiler. So you have to brew, then you switch to another mode, you wait for some few seconds, then you can activate the steam one. So all these machines, they are great, but it just depends where you want to use the machine. The next step, choosing the right profile. It's important to keep in mind that different roast profiles do have different impact they'll play in the brewing process. Now, basically, we have light roast coffee, medium roast coffee, and dark roast coffee. Because of these different roast profiles, they'll have different ways they'll react in water. Let's start with the light roast coffee. It's important to keep in mind that the lighter the roast, the more acidic, vibrant cup of coffee, because the roaster try to highlight the natural characters in that particular coffee. The more the roaster roasts the coffee, it will reduce the acidity by creating some bitterness and more body in the process. While for the medium roast coffee, it is between both. So for my recommendation as a beginner barista, like most of the coffee shop they use nowadays, they use medium roast coffee. But it's important to keep in mind that you can use any roast level for your espresso shot. Now, the next step here, it is brewing the coffee. But to brew the coffee, we need to understand different variables that influence extraction, factors that influence extraction, like the dose, the yield, the time, the ratio, the water temperature, the water quality, the grind size. All these things do have impact in the final cup. But in this video, I'll walk you through the basic ones you need to know as a beginner barista. Let's start with the dose. The amount of ground coffee that goes into your basket I refer as an input. It always determines how big or small your espresso will definitely look like. For example, if you start with 20 gram dose, it is different if you start with 18 gram dose. It is different if you start with 16 gram dose. Now, the problem a lot of beginner baristas do have is, how can I figure out, or how can I know the exact dose to use? Now, when it comes to choosing your dose, you keep in mind that number one, you need to know your basket size. The size of your basket will determine how much ground coffee you definitely start with. For example, if you have 18 grams basket, you keep in mind that you can dose up to 20 grams coffee in that 18 gram basket, or let's say 16 grams in that 18 gram basket. Why is it important? Because if you use a smaller basket and you dose more coffee in that particular basket, there will be problems in extraction, and that is something we don't actually want. As well as if you use smaller dose in a bigger basket, you should keep in mind that when the water hits the coffee ground, it disrupts the coffee bed inside. So at some point, we end up having bad extraction, and that is why it's important to know the basket size. Again, not all machines do have basket size, but most of the VST baskets do have their sizes written on them. The next thing here, it is the ratio. Now, when you choose your dose, it's important to choose the right ratio. Now, the ratio here is the relationship between the water and the coffee. How much water you use to brew the coffee, which is really important. Based on the coffee industry, there is a guide. Now, the ratio for espresso is 1:2 to 1:2.5 brew ratio, and that is just a guide as a beginner barista. So you choose your dose, you choose your ratio. Then let's talk about the yield. The yield, it is what we extract from the ground coffee. So the next thing here, it is time. Time is really important in the brewing process because it tracks the changes of our variable from one stage to another, and also the time always determines if the coffee is over extracted, under extracted, or if it's the ideal extraction. Based on the coffee industry, our extraction time for espresso is 25 to 30 seconds. So anything below or above, it is not accepted. Why the time is so important? Because, for example, if I have 20 grams of coffee and I extract 40 ml out as a liquid espresso in 10 seconds or 15 seconds, but how will I know if the coffee is good? Only through the time and according to the coffee industry. So these are some of the basic variables you need to know as a beginner barista. Like I said before, we have a lot like the grind size, water temperature, water quality. All these things do matters in the brewing process. Now, let's see how to extract a delicious cup of coffee. Now, the first thing you want to do is to remove the porter filter from the group head. You want to make sure it is clean and dry. As you can see, you have some water inside. Now, if we dose directly, we have high chances that the coffee will be under extracted or uneven extraction because water is a solvent and coffee contains soluble materials. So when the water and the coffee comes together, it starts the extraction automatically. So to avoid that, it's important to clean and dry. Next thing here, you want to weigh the porter filter to make sure that anything that will come inside the basket should be the exact amount of coffee that you actually want. To dose a coffee, it's important to always confirm if it is the exact amount of coffee that you actually want. Now, if it is the exact amount of coffee that you actually want, you can tame your coffee. But if it is not, you can add your dose or you can reduce your dose. Distribution is really important because it is part of the quality. As you can see, on one side we have more coffee and on the other side we have less coffee. Now, if we temp directly, we have high chances that we have uneven extraction because when the water hits the coffee and the water will look the less resistant area and pass through. That is something we don't actually want. So it's important to always distribute a coffee the right way. It's temping. After temping your coffee, you want to make sure you temp properly. Don't temp too hard because if you temp too hard, there will be problem in extraction, and if you temp too soft, there will be problem in extraction. Based on my experience, I think around 30 pounds would be the best way to temp your coffee. And next thing, you push your group head. You push your group head here to have clearance. For some machine, when you make coffee for a period of time, the water around the group head is too hot, so you push the group head to allow the water to run to bring in the right temperature. For some other machine, when you extract coffee for a period of time, the water around the group head is too cold, so you push the group head to allow the water to run to bring in the right temperature. And next thing here, you place your porter filter on your group head, use your scale, and you start your extraction. Now, when you extract your coffee and you notice that the coffee is under extracted coffee based on the fact that we use 18 grams and we have this extraction out, it means the coffee is below 25 seconds and you have more output. It means the contact time between the water and the coffee is not enough to extract more compounds to balance up the extraction. So what we have to do right now, we'll go to the grinder, change the grind size. So here we need to go more finer. Going more finer means we expose more surface area to create more resistance, so we can create more extraction to balance up the situation. And then if we have a situation where the coffee is over extracted, like this situation where the coffee is above 30 seconds and we have this output, it means the contact time between the water and the coffee is too much and the water start to extract the bitter part of the coffee. So when the coffee is over extracted, it will taste bitter, dry, lack of sweetness. While when the coffee is under extracted, it will taste sour, unpleasant, lack of sweetness as well. So to fix the over extracted situation, you come to a grinder and go coarse. Now, anytime you change your grind size, you need to grind some coffee and you throw to clean the previous settings or to clean the previous grind settings and to bring in the new grind settings, which is really important. So how will you know the coffee is perfect? As you can see, this extraction matches the industry standard. We had 18 grams coffee and we had 36 ml out as a liquid espresso in 25 to 30 seconds. This is just how beginner baristas extract their espresso shot. in the future or make a video how to dial in coffee as a beginner barista and how to dial in coffee as a professional barista, because the way a professional barista approach the coffee, it is different from the beginner barista. So the beginner barista dial in the coffee in respect to time, while professional baristas dial in coffee in respect to the taste. Now, the way a professional barista describe on the extracted coffee, it is different from a beginner barista, or the way a professional barista would describe sour or acidity in coffee, it is different how a beginner barista will also describe these characters in coffee. As well as professional baristas, when they receive the coffee from a roastery or they receive new coffee, they always go through the roast date, the roast level, the altitude. All these things do have impact when brewing the coffee. For the beginner barista, because they have less information on that, they just brew the coffee based on the coffee industry. But again, don't worry, you just keep practicing, meet professional baristas so you can calibrate your palate and you will know exactly what to do. I want your thoughts in the comments below. For now, I'll say thanks so much for watching and hope you have a great day.